So, good evening, everyone. I am Manya Khanna, Operations and Corporate Relation Associate, and welcome you on behalf of Karuna Mediation and Arbitration Institute and our founder, Mr. Sahil Kapoor. So, Karuna Mediation and Arbitration Institute is a vision to spread awareness of mediation for resolving disputes with compassion and empathy. Further, Karuna imparts training also to the newcomers to make them learn the techniques of what mediation is and use them resolving in disputes of conflicting parties. We also welcome Shulini University of Legal Science as our knowledge partner, which is established in 2009 in Solan, Himachal Pradesh, and is recognized by the UGC and NAC. It has been ranked in the top 200 globally as per the impact rankings in 2002. So in progress towards our vision, we will be having organizing and related webinars to separate the awareness about mediation for students and professionals, who all will be the future building blocks for the sector. Today's webinar will be on mediation as a profession, and to impart and share knowledge, we welcome sir for today's our topic as a mediation as a profession, and Mr. Jawad A J sir will throw the light to all the myths related to mediation as a profession and how one can be a successful mediator. Sir has been an advocate and semi-accredited mediator based in Chennai. He is one of our advisory board member also. Sir has been accredited as a digital dispute resolution specialist with ADR ODR International UK and partner and a head of ADR services and a KDLX chambers at Gurgaon and Delhi. Sir has been a senior mediator and trained working as a globally, work as a mediator and trainer with the Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee of the Supreme Court of India, and also been a co-founder and a former trustee of Foundation for Comprehensive Dispute Resolution based in Chennai. Sir had more than the 16 years of experience in conducting in civil, commercial, matrimonial mediation. Sir has been empaneled as an Indian specialist mediator with the Singapore International Mediation Center and the Bombay Chamber of Commerce. A guest faculty also with the master's degree course in mediation at the Maharashtra National Law University, and also empaneled as an arbitrator with the Madras High Court Arbitration Center and the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you with us. Now I request, before proceeding with the webinar, I request to all the participants to keep their mic on mute, and if possible, do somehow switch on your cameras, because it's then only it will be an interactive session with all of you. So all the questions from you guys will be taken at the end of the session, or you may put the questions in between in the chat. We can try to able the answers either in the end of the session, or if possibly we miss any of the questions, we will try to contact you and give your answers at our LinkedIn page also. Or you can contact to our LinkedIn page and we will try to answer all these questions with sir. So as in our previous webinars on mediation, so we discussed what about mediation is and what skills are required to be a successful mediator. Now, as our audience wants to know more about mediation as a profession, my query is to you, sir, is like how mediation can be successful in resolving disputes with a win-win outcome.
Thank you, Manya. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to Karuna Mediation and to all of you. And thanks for being here to listen to me. Well, I think to answer your question, first of all, I don't know how many of you have some background in mediation, or perhaps, attended some webinars or listened to what mediation is all about. So for those who have not, let me just briefly tell you what mediation is all about. Basically, it's a process where if two people are having a dispute between themselves, two or more people, I'm just giving an example of two people. If they have a dispute between themselves, they agree that, okay, let's do a negotiation, let's negotiate with each other. But since we are the affected parties, we may not be able to see things in proper perspective. Therefore, let's take the help of a neutral third party who is not connected with the dispute, who will help us in taking on, I mean, going ahead with this negotiation. So that is essentially the essence of mediation. So what flows from that basically is that parties have to be willing to go through the process of mediation. They should be willing to each other. So now, because a lot of things will be discussed openly, frankly, honestly, because when you are trying to collaborate and resolve a problem, you wouldn't like to suppress facts, or you wouldn't like to hide things from each other, or at least from the mediator, who will perhaps look at things from a very different perspective and help you to understand it. So a lot of confidential information may come out in the process of mediation. Therefore, it has to be a confidential process. It can't be, where you can just, if supposing the mediation fails, you can't go back to the court and say, oh, this is what happened in mediation. This is what so-and-so admitted. This is what so-and-so agreed to. So basically, it is non-binding. Therefore, it has to be completely confidential. Okay. So it's a voluntary process. It's a confidential process. And it also is designed in such a way that uh, it is what is called in legal terminology as a without prejudice process, in the sense that when you enter into mediation, you agree that anything that is said or discussed in the mediation will not affect your legal rights and obligations unless and until you are able to reach an agreement. So once you reach an agreement, the agreement will be governing your relationship. Okay. So these are the very important aspects of mediation. And what is very significant, one more factor is, usually we hear of dispute resolution methods where a third person sits in judgment, either as a judge or as an arbitrator, and tells the parties what to do, who's right, who's wrong, who should compensate whom. All these things are decided by a neutral third party, either as an arbitrator or as a judge. But in mediation, the mediator will never decide. The mediator merely facilitates the talks. So that is the difference between any other dispute resolution mechanism and that is the conventional dispute resolution mechanisms like litigation and arbitration that we are all well acquainted with, and mediation. And also the process is structured very scientifically, in the sense that it takes place in such a way that the mediator goes step by step, first in understanding what actually is the root cause of the dispute, tries to explore what are the real underlying interests of the parties, helps them to understand issues that need to be resolved based on what the interests of the parties that are expressed in the course of the mediation, and then facilitates the negotiation by sometimes in a joint session, sometimes in two private sessions. Because what happens is, when parties are in conflict, anything that comes from the mouth of one party will not be well received by the other party. The other party may not like an offer that is being made. So the mediator plays a sort of the role of a shuttle diplomat. So carrying these offers, reframing these offers in such a way that the other party does not feel offended by an offer. Test the offers with the party who's making these offers. All these processes the mediator does. So basically what we believe is that in order to be a mediator, you can't just jump into it without knowing how the process works. You need to undergo some, at least some basic training to understand at least how the process is structured. But your learning doesn't end with just a training program that you may attend. It helps you to only understand the structure of the process, but you need to keep learning more and more, and you need to perhaps go through that experience, maybe work with seasoned mediators, try to understand what are the best practices that you can utilize, and then become a okay. I thought it was a very long answer for a very short question. I'm sorry about that.
No, sir. It's totally a well-defined answer. So now my second question is to you, like, what are your basically how mediation, whether the mediation profession can be taken as a standalone profession in India?
Okay, you're talking to somebody who has exactly done that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that was a big risk I took about almost 10 years back. Okay, because that time mediation was relatively unknown. I'll just tell you a little about what I did, and then I'll tell you whether today the time is ripe for that or not. Okay.
Yes.
In fact, Aditya, who's here now, was with me sometime back. He had come to visit me, and it was a pleasure meeting him in person because we have already, all the time, we've been interacting. And we had a lot of discussion, which gave me a lot of insight from what even Aditya's views were. So I must thank Aditya for giving me different perspectives. But how it started with me was I got enrolled as a lawyer. I completed my law degree in 1987. Perhaps most of you were not born at that time. So in 1988, I got enrolled as a lawyer because I had some arrears. I fell in love in my final year and hardly attended classes. So we were most of the time out dating, my wife and I. So I had some arrears accumulated. So out of that, I became a lawyer. But I felt like a fish out of water for almost 25 years, almost 25 years. I practiced law. I had a good practice. I had some good, really good clients. All that was there, but somehow I was not very happy with what I was doing. It was, somehow I felt it was not me. Okay. So then I came across this training program that was being conducted by Madras High Court. And I just, for the heck of it, without knowing what mediation was all about, I went and registered myself and dragged my wife also with me, and we both got registered for the training. And that was a sort of an eye opener for me. And I thought that, okay, I always call it my eureka moment. So, of course, I didn't run out of the bathtub like Archimedes did, but short of that, it was a eureka moment for me. And I really felt that, this is what I should be actually doing. And then I took the plunge. It took me about 2 or 3 years to take that decision. And many of my friends laughed at me, and they mocked me. They called me sort of a evangelist, or they called me some kind of an idealist or a believer in some utopian ideas and all that. They said I was committing professional harakiri. But I took the plunge, and my wife supported me throughout in this. And I went ahead with that. And there has been no looking back. Okay, and because I started off at a time when mediation was relatively unknown, it was just a very nascent concept that was being introduced in the courts, by the courts. The concept of private mediation was virtually unknown. Of course, we had the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. We had the concept of conciliation, but that was rarely being done. We had lok adalats, but the process of mediation, as we understand it today, was quite unknown at that time. So I had to do a few arbitrations here and there just for my survival, okay, because I had to run my house and take care of my family. So for that, I did that. But other than that, I was totally committed to mediation. I became a trainer and I conducted training programs and all that. The more deeper I got into it, the more I started enjoying myself. I felt that I had really found my calling. Now, having said that about me, now what is today's situation? Let us see. Okay. Now, those very friends who used to laugh at me for taking that decision today ask the courts to refer matters to mediation and ask me to be appointed as a mediator in those cases. So it's been a virtually like the world has come around a full circle now. And they realize the efficacy of the process at times because, even lawyers have a conscience. Okay. So, I mean, we do have a conscience. So they feel that sometimes, parties don't have to really go through this whole painful, tedious process, incurring a lot of expenditure and spending money. It is not just the kind of the question of spending money and time. It's also the toll it takes on your mental well-being, your peace of mind and all that. So they realize that, okay, parties need something which is more efficient and which would be less costly for the parties in terms of the emotional toll that litigation takes on them. So they convince parties to go for mediation. And one very significant development here is that there was a time when we started a mediation center in Madras High Court. Mr. Sriram Panchu was the main founder of that. It was basically his idea to set up, and he worked with Justice Markandeya Kachu, who was our Chief Justice at that time. And the first center was set up in just 2 rooms. Today we have 12 rooms. That time it was just 2 rooms that were there. And we used to virtually go from chamber to chamber begging, pleading with lawyers to come and undergo training. Okay, so those who knew us very well, who couldn't say no to us, used to reluctantly come and attend the training. But today we have nothing less than, at a given time, nothing less than 800 applications pending with lawyers aspiring to become mediators. So this is how the wheel has turned. And today we are talking about a standalone legislation for mediation. Okay, I'm sure many of you will be aware that we have a bill pending before the parliament, and there was a committee constituted because some of the provisions we were not very happy with. So the committee went from city to city and discussed with experts and got their views on how the bill should be modified. And that report has now been submitted very recently to the parliament. Hopefully, we will have an act in place, and that would be a sort of we expect that to be a sort of a game changer in the field of mediation, because that in our country we always believe in the law. We may break the law, but we do believe in the law. Unless there's a law behind something, we won't take it seriously. Hi, Kainat. Okay.
Hello, sir.
So this is how we operate. And then once the law is in place, I'm sure that people will start, that awareness will become more. Okay, but unfortunately, the committee has recommended that we should not have mandatory pre-litigation mediation, which is something which was very disappointing for me, because I felt that, many cases I have seen where parties are referred by the court in mediation, they come to the mediation room and they tell us that, look, we are not interested. We don't know why we have been sent here. Then I tell them that, look, why don't you just sit down and hear me out for 5 minutes? Just give me 5 minutes of your time. And if you still want to go back to court, by all means, you can do that. And they sit down, and when they listen to, when you explain to them what the process is all about, 90 out of 100 people decide to go ahead with the process of mediation. Okay, so this is the kind of experience that we have had. So mandatory mediation, what we feel is it would create that, give an opportunity for parties to be aware that, okay, before we go to court, we have to explore this. And they're not going to lose anything by just attending 1 or 2 sessions of mediation. If they are not able to, if they don't like the process, or if they feel they need to go back to court, the court's doors are not closed for them. They can always go back to the court. But unfortunately, a perception has been created that it will amount to denial of justice. So recently, I wrote an article in Live Law also, Fear of Mandatory Mediation, Is It Real? So where I have said that how do you define these fundamental principles of justice? Is it justice only if the court delivers a judgment? Or is it also justice when you and I sit across the table, talk to each other and resolve? Not justice. So why do we say that it is against the fundamental principles of justice? In fact, I feel this is much better justice because it is complete justice. There's a difference between justice according to law and real justice. There's a huge difference, because justice according to law may not necessarily translate as justice on the ground. Okay. So that is where, we have these small hitches now, but I feel that, we are poised. We are at the cusp of a big change that is going to happen in our country once the act comes into force. And we hope that mediation will take off as a profession. I attended a discussion with some mediators from Nigeria, where they wanted to discuss the difference between mediation as a practice and mediation as a profession. Now, I was racking my mind, what is the difference? And then I realized that, yes, there is a difference. Because being a lawyer, I can practice mediation on the side. So that is, in my view, that is a practice of mediation. But when I'm doing mediation as a full-time practice, that is my profession as a mediation. So mediation as a profession, I feel, has a huge potential. And that is what we were talking, Aditya and I were discussing today, that, it has a huge potential. It's like one of my, that mediation is an idea whose time has come. See, today we are talking about 3.5 crore pending cases all over India. The courts are totally swamped with pendencies of cases. We all know about that. Supreme Court itself is grappling with this kind of a pendency. And each day, cases are going on coming into the courts, and the outflow is virtually nothing compared to the inflow. Now, that is where in the US in 1976, when the Pound Conference took place, Professor Frank Sanders submitted a paper which he called as the multi-door courthouse concept. So he said that every case that comes to court need not always go through the process of trial. You can also explore, amicable means of dispute resolution like mediation, to see that these don't have to necessarily go to court. Because that was a time in the 1970s when the US had just gone through the Great Depression, where the economy had completely collapsed, and cases in courts used to take 11 years for disposal. Of course, that is not a surprise for us because we take even 30 years. So there 11 years it used to take, and people were disgusted and disappointed and frustrated with the whole. So when this came, the US embraced mediation in a big way. And today it has become, I was reading somewhere that the American Bar Association's mediation section's annual conference is much bigger than the litigation section's mediation conference. Now, we are talking about two things. One is lawyers or other professionals acting as mediators. And one more concept that we need to keep in mind is mediation advocacy. Because there is a difference between being an advocate who argues your case for the client in the court and being an advocate helping or assisting a party in a mediation, because you need a whole different mindset for that. Okay, you have to come out of your adversarial mindset and start thinking collaboratively. You have to go beyond your client's stated positions and understand what your client's real interests and needs are. You need to advise your clients accordingly, helping them to understand and assisting the mediator and helping the parties to understand these core interests that they have. And then, collaborating with the other side to see how you can come up with solutions that would be workable for both sides, instead of just focusing on helping your client to win the case. Okay, so there is a lot of potential. I see it. Still, for the culture of mediation to take root, as I was telling Aditya today, for more than 200 or 300 years, we have been used to a particular culture that if you have a dispute, the only way to do is either kill each other or go to the court, which is also almost equal to that. And the only difference is here, one of you may succeed in killing the other person in a duel, or if you fight in a engage in a physical fight. If you go to court, you'll end up killing the other person and also killing yourself. So this is the only difference. Okay, so we have always thought that this is the only way. That is why when the president of our Madras High Court Advocates Association wrote an article in the Hindu Business Line, where he said that, this is where he said that it will be against the fundamental principles of justice to prevent people from coming to court by asking them to go for mediation. And it was an answer to that I wrote the article which I referred to first, where I asked this question: what do you mean by the fundamental principles of justice? So according to me, I am very optimistic about it. Okay, I have been always an eternal optimist about peace and harmony. So I feel that we have a great makers, and I feel that we have to necessarily take it on in a big way, and that is where people like you, youngsters like you, are going to play a very significant role. Where if you come in as full-time mediators, you take it as a profession, you may have to struggle. You will have to struggle even as lawyers. See, today the tendency is to straight away, go and join some big law firm and get a good salary there and work there in transactional law. Or, I don't know what else you can do. But nobody is coming really for actual, how many trial court lawyers are there today? How many youngsters really go and get that kind of trial experience that you need to be a good litigation lawyer? So if you're lucky, if you get into some big company or corporate as an in-house counsel, or you get into a big law firm, well, you're lucky. If not, what do? You have to struggle. When I started my practice way back in 1988, we had no options the way you have options today. Okay, either we had to go to court, put on the black coat and gown and go to court and fight cases, or we had to starve. So these are the only two options for us. So there was nothing else. Or maybe you take up a job as a legal advisor for some, some paltry salary. Those were the only options that we had. And we had to necessarily learn that litigation practice. Okay, but today you have options. And if you can afford it, you can afford to, that is, anyway, you're going to be struggling. So if you put that struggle in a more constructive way in trying to popularize mediation and projecting yourself as either as a mediation advocate or as a mediator, that would bring about a transformational change. It will, what we need to do basically is to focus on ensuring that there is a paradigm shift in the perception of people, that the only way to resolve a dispute is in the court. And tell them that, okay, these are ways, and we are here to help you to resolve your disputes in a peaceful way, in a way that would help you to, reach a conclusion that would be good for you and good for the other person also.
So, sir, basically, legislation going for a litigation part is important, or is somehow can be an experience for a mediator also? Like it's compulsory or no?
See,
Or
let us put it this way. I think parallelly having a bit of litigation experience helps you to look at things from a legal perspective also. Okay. Now, think about whether lawyers alone should be mediators. So you can be from any profession. You can be a doctor, you can be an engineer, you can be a chartered accountant, you can be a community leader, you can be a mullah or a pandit, you can be a church priest, but you can still be a mediator, right? Now, are they going to get any litigation experience? Where are they going to practice adversarial litigation? So I don't think it is it's mandatory that you should have some litigation experience. But since you are going to be qualified as lawyers, perhaps a little bit of litigation experience may help you to, the only place where I see it's going to be helping you is when you're going to be doing reality checks with parties. Because in mediation, we do what is called as a reality check as to how realistic are the parties' perception about the outcome of a litigation. Because sometimes parties have a very high opinion about where their case stands. They feel that they have a very good case and they feel that they're going to be winning a case. So I'll just share one small experience with you. Like there was a matrimonial mediation that I was dealing with. And this boy company that was a foreign company. Okay, he was staying abroad, and he was drawing a huge salary. And based on that salary, this lawyer had advised his client, the girl, to ask for a 5 crore alimony as a one-time alimony. Now the boy was refusing to give that. He said, I really don't have the means because my money is gone into different investments, blah, blah, blah. But he was refusing to basically, he thought that it was exorbitant. Now, what I did was the lawyer was very adamant, the girl's lawyer, saying that, we will get this. Okay, I'm very confident considering his salary. So I had a sub caucus, what we call a private session in a private session with the lawyer, not in the presence of the client. And I said, sir, I'm just trying to understand that how many cases have you come across where an alimony of this kind has been awarded by the courts? He said, I have not. And then I said, all right, one more. Let's say that the court awards you this. How are you going to realize this money? How are you going to execute the court's decree? He said, we'll attach a salary in that country. I said, that's a very good idea, sir, but I just want to know, out of purely academic interest, I just want to know, is there, some kind of a reciprocal treaty or understanding with that country where our awards and decrees are recognized by that country and enforced? He said, I don't know. I said, can you do one thing, sir? I mean, purely out of, again, I'm sure you must have thought about this, but shall we both just look into that and see whether there is any such provision where you can go and attach a salary in that country? And I said, okay, realistically speaking, even here, I'm sure that you would have tried to attach salaries of people working in private companies. And at least in my experience, I've seen that they resign from one company where the salary is attached and they go to another company. Now, what about these possibilities? Do these possibilities exist there also? And he broke into a sweat. He said he'll verify. He came back the next day and we settled that for 25 lakhs. So you see how sometimes, your experience as a lawyer may sometimes help you, and at least a working knowledge of law may help you in, doing this kind of a reality check. But other than that, I don't see how, litigation experience will really help you. But there's no harm in equipping yourself with that knowledge also. since that opportunity is there for you as lawyers, as law students, as law graduates, I would say that, okay, go ahead and do that bit of litigation practice, maybe for 2 years, 3 years, or even 5 years, but don't lose your focus on mediation, because that is where I think the future lies. Because look at the prospects of mediation today. One, people are very frustrated with the whole process. They go to it only because they have no other options. Okay, options are very few. There's a Zen saying that, when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So today, that's the situation today. But when they realize that, okay, there is a legitimate option available where we can sit and talk with the help of somebody and resolve this, definitely I'm sure people are going to opt for it. And that awareness has started happening now. And there are cases like I was telling Aditya that I'm right now doing a mediation in Hyderabad, where a retired judge is an arbitrator in the matter. And he felt that this is a matter to be resolved. And he suggested to the parties that, why don't we go for mediation? And because as an arbitrator, he couldn't do the mediation, he suggested my name. And I'm trying to do that mediation, and hopefully we should be able to reach some resolution. So that awareness is coming among people that, okay, why should we go ahead with a very painful, very traumatic, and very troublesome process, expensive process? Why don't we explore this? So that awareness is coming about. It will take some time, no doubt about it. I have been patient for 15 years now, okay, and things are turning around. So hopefully, I'm sure that by the time you people really, you get a bit of litigation experience, and all the time keep working on mediation, undergo as many trainings as you can, try to sit with seasoned mediators and try to get that, the learning from them. Interact with people who have that kind of exposure. We have Kainath here, we have Aditya here. They're all people who have been doing a lot of work in mediation. In fact, Kainath and I were supposed to be the coaches of a team which took place in a recent mediation competition. But my schedule had been so hectic, I just couldn't find the time to pay any attention. And Kainath handled it beautifully, and they went up to the semi-final stage. So she did a great job. And I was watching the WhatsApp exchanges. I was watching the kind of inputs she was giving them. So I just decided to keep quiet because I thought she was doing a great job. I didn't want to interfere in that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm giving very long answers, I think.
So it's totally very insightful. So, sir, my next question is like, as a mediator, what one has to take care to build up his or her career?
Yeah, that's a good question, Manya. That's what I was telling Aditya also, because I think what you need to basically do is, one, equip yourself. Okay, don't just be satisfied. 40 hours training is regarded starting point for starting off as a mediator. Okay, but believe me, that is not enough. It's just not enough. And the more, I mean, just because you have undergone a 40-hour training with supposing one institution, don't be satisfied with that. Try to get trained by as many institutions as you can. Okay, sometimes it might be expensive for you. It is an investment. Treat it as an investment, but do undergo those trainings. Start writing, read a lot. Okay, because the very interesting aspect of mediation, you have to understand human psychology. You have to understand how the human minds work, how people behave during conflict situations, because you're going to be handling people. And my mantra has always been, and when I conduct training, I tell my trainees that the mantra should be that mediation is a healing process and mediator is a healer. So when I approach a matter, I don't always focus on settlement or what the substantive issues that may be involved. I try to explore what is driving the conflict. Okay, that is how I was trained by my gurus. So I look at that and I see whether I'm able to bring the parties to at least deal with those going through, help them to come out of that, and then work towards a resolution. So that would be a more sustainable resolution rather than, see, today in litigation, you don't get that opportunity at all. See, what happens when you go to a lawyer's office? The moment you walk into the lawyer's office, your identity is lost. You become a petitioner, you become a plaintiff. Like how when you die, you're a dead body. Like that, you become a petitioner, you become a plaintiff, you're a defendant. You're always addressed by that title only. It is not Manya, it's not Prajwal, it's not Kainat, it's not Garvit. No. You're only called as plaintiff. This is what the plaintiff says, this is what the defendant says, your identity is gone. And nobody is really bothered about how you feel about it. Who's bothered? Does the lawyer ask you, oh, what did you feel when your brother did this to you? Nobody asks. And if you try to tell the lawyer, that's not relevant at all. Let's see what the law says. So it's always justice according to law. So you put everything in silos of rights and wrongs, and then you try to, present that to the court. Even the only time you get to open your mouth is when you are, examined as a witness. And even there, your answers have to be yes or no. Okay, and neither the judge is interested, nor the other side lawyer is interested, nor your own lawyer is interested in how you feel about the whole thing. So this is where things are heading. So today we are that's why mediation offers a tremendous scope for you to learn different things. Like I keep reading a lot of books on social intelligence, emotional intelligence, how conflicts arise, and which part of the brain gets triggered. So all these things help you to really understand when you are speaking to somebody. Okay, this is what is triggering this, and then you try to address that. So it also the best part about mediation is it helps you to become a better person. The more you mediate, because you are helping other people to deal with their conflicts, you become better equipped to deal with your own conflicts. Okay, so you always develop the habit of, before blurting out something or, indulging in violent communication. Words can be more violent than swords, right? So they can cause more damage, more harm than swords. A cut through a sword can be, perhaps treated, and after some time the pain will go, and the scar maybe the scar may remain, but sometimes it may disappear. Or you can simply undergo some plastic surgery. But words leave a scar that is indelible. It remains there forever. So words can be very dangerous. Okay, so you learn how to measure your words, you learn how to speak, you know how to reframe your thoughts and put them in a proper way. So it definitely helps you to become a better human being. Okay, and deal with your own conflicts. So what we need to do is we need to, create a revolution of peacemaking. What we need is a peacemaking revolution, and our world, definitely our country, our world needs that today. Okay, where we should be able to sit across, talk to each other, and resolve our differences without necessarily becoming violent about it, either with swords or with words.
So, sir, can I have my next question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So my next question is whether a mediator goes for a private mediation or a court annexed mediation.
Well, now there is a problem with court annexed mediations, Manya, because this is completely under the control of the Mediation Conciliation Project Committee of the Supreme Court. Now, they have stipulated some conditions for you to get trained as a mediator. Okay. Number one, you have to have a years of experience in the bar. Okay. Number two, you have to make your application and you have to wait until the next training program is conducted. And number three, the training may not always be of the standard that is required to really, have good mediators. Though I'm a part of the MCPC training trainers panel, I'm still saying this myself because I have seen this happening, very unfortunate. And that is how things work. And there's a lot of, bureaucratic red tape that is involved over there. So if you are starting off as a new law graduate who is entering into the field, you may not get that opportunity to get trained. And we have been, taking this issue up with MCPC. In fact, in one of the meetings that we had with the MCPC, I also said that, I always keep saying this, that what you're trying to do, a lawyer of 15 or 10 years experience has already got a structure in his or her mind. okay, which is an adversarial structure. Okay, so it's like, when you want to build something new, it's like having to demolish an existing structure over there. So a lot of unlearning has to be done before you start learning. Now, whereas for youngsters, we don't have to do that because it's like a vacant plot of land. You don't have any preconceived notions. You don't have a structure standing over there. And all you need to do is put up that new building. Okay, so it's much easier. And I have seen when you are judging competitions or when you're coaching students for competitions, you find how easily they are able to, embrace these concepts, how easily they are able to adapt. And when I do the training for lawyers with 15 years, 20 years experience, I see how difficult it is to get them out of that mindset, to even make them start thinking. And what happens when they go into the mediation room, the first thing they do is to start offering advice. Why don't you do this? In fact, we had a complaint from one of the parties where the mediator, in front of the wife, has told the husband that, look, she can file a she can file a domestic violence complaint against you. And promptly the next day, the wife goes and files a domestic violence complaint. So this became a big controversy. So you see, that's the problem. Today in Court Annex mediation, the scope for young law graduates is not there virtually. Okay, so private mediation is the field where you should really focus on. And that is where we are all trying to, we are trying to develop that. We are trying to offer training programs that are of high quality, of international quality, which come with international accreditation. Right now, we are planning, Kainath has been trained by our organization, ADR, ODR International. So we are offering training of mediators, which comes with, which makes you eligible for international accreditation with International Mediation Institute or Singapore International Mediation Institute. So these kind of trainings help you to really get a more global perspective, because now we have the Singapore Convention, and we expect once the Mediation Act comes into force and once the Singapore Convention is ratified, though we were the first signatories, we are still not ratified. India has still not ratified the convention. So hopefully a lot of cross-border disputes, because companies who deal with, in cross-border transactions, they don't want to waste their times in courts. See, many years back, I was advising my client on an agreement which he was entering into for manufacturing these electricity meters with a US company. And the CEO of the US company had come here to discuss the terms. And while we had a dinner meeting with him. And he was telling me that, look, we are very uncomfortable dealing with India. We are more comfortable dealing with China. I said, why do you say that? He said, see, in China, it gets resolved in 3 months. Whereas in India, we don't know whether 30 years we'll see the light of the day. Even in arbitration, the same problem. Every award is challenged. You go to the court, and your courts take their own time in disposing of cases. So I did my research, and I was told that, dealing with India is a big problem because your disputes don't get resolved. So they don't want to waste their time. Okay. So this is where I feel that, you have a huge potential. Once these things fall into place, once we ratify the Singapore Convention, it's not that these cases are going to come and fall on a platter on your lap. You have to work for it. How you have to work for even when you're doing adversarial litigation, you have to really build up that reputation, right? It's not going to come, if some big corporate group has a dispute, they would go to Harish Salve, they won't come to Jawad or to you, right? Because they prefer the standards, so they prefer the quality. Now, you have to develop that quality, okay? You have to develop those standards. And that is where, focusing on it as a standalone profession would be very helpful. Struggle is going to be there. Let me not give you some glorified thing that it is going to be a better. There are going to be a lot of thorns. You will get quite bloodied in the process. Be ready for it. But it is worth exploring because that is the future. And mediation is very amenable to technology. Okay, unlike we saw how courts were struggling with virtual hearings. We saw the kind of problems. And from the time the pandemic has started, I have been doing online mediations quite successfully. Because I have done mediations where, parties are sitting in different parts of the country or different parts of the world. and we are all able to connect in one place on one virtual platform, and we are able to discuss and resolve, right? So nothing like mediation for the fast changing world that we are seeing today. Okay, and the whole perception of dispute resolution has changed. It's undergoing a huge transformation. Unfortunately, our lawyer community is refusing to recognize that. Those who are smart enough to recognize that are embracing it full time, but there are still some, they're so steeped in the orthodoxy of the courts system that they don't want to come out of it. Okay, that is where the challenge really lies. Because when a particular lawyer comes as a particular party's lawyer, we know this matter is going to get settled or not going to get settled. Who's advising the parties? And we know that there are some lawyers who will never, they'll pretend to cooperate, but they'll never allow the settlement to happen. So private mediation is the thing that you should be focusing on, because that is out of reach for you. Okay, oldies like me, we are monopolizing that. Okay, so for you, there's no place there, right? Because unfortunately, those are the rules. Unless MCPC changes the rules and says that, young lawyers should also be trained in mediation and they should be given an opportunity. Nothing like it. Okay, that would really transform the whole, scene. But I don't think they will do it so easily. It's going to take time. So we'll have to wait for that. But for private mediation is where you need to focus on.
So, private mediation will be a good source of income?
Very difficult question. Okay. As I said, it's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be easy, okay, until we reach a stage where mediation becomes mainstream, okay, and litigation takes a back seat. So, but that day is okay. So today, see, whatever I am today, I owe it to mediation. I don't think that I could have really survived in litigation. Perhaps I would have had a nervous breakdown or a psychological issue. Okay. And today, whatever I am, it's thanks to mediation, because it transformed my life. It transformed the way I think. It transformed the way I deal with my own family. It transformed the way I deal with my friends. It transformed the way I deal with my own conflicts. So it transformed everything. And today, I'm a different person from what I was. And that's exactly what Aditya was also telling me. So for a young man like him to feel that way, I don't know how Kainath feels about it. What do you say, Kainath?
I think absolutely the same. For me, the difficulty is having conversations with people when you realize. So when you start doing negotiation, right?
Yeah.
You understand the underlying interest behind whatever a person is saying. So in your daily conversations, when you're so well versed with understanding communication at that level, it becomes very hard, because when a person is communicating to you, you understand exactly where it's coming from. So even though normally you would have reacted more strongly, or you would have taken it head on as a conflict, it's very hard, because at least for me, when I'm talking to people, when I see this is happening, where what the person wants to say and what they're saying is not at the same plane, right?
Yeah.
I know that I should be reacting to what they're saying, but I really justify it because I understand where it's coming from. So I think it really, your communication happens at a very different plane, because you don't just hear what the person's saying, but you also understand where it's coming from and why they're saying it.
Exactly.
And I think to a certain level, it just makes you have a very elevated conversation, where you're not just responding to what you're hearing, but you're responding to where that's coming from. And like you're navigating that conversation differently.
Beautiful. Very well put, Kainath. See, I'll tell you, it's from what Kainath said, it's a very simple transformation. Normally, what we do is we listen to answer. We don't listen to understand. So a simple transformation that happens when you become a mediator is you listen to understand. And in order to understand, you learn what questions to ask. Why do you feel this way? What makes you say this? What is driving this? So these are the questions. What is important for you? So these are the questions that transform the whole conversation, takes it to a different level completely. And people understand that, okay, here is a person who's trying to understand what I'm trying to say instead of telling me I'm right or wrong, instead of either agreeing or disagreeing with me. So this small transformation can be transformation that your ability to have conversations with people changes completely. And I have come across so many people who have undergone mediation training and come and tell me that, it has changed our lives. I'll give you a small example. I did a training program in a place in Kerala. Okay. And I told them about active listening and how to listen, what kind of body language when you're listening. So this gentleman, I told them, I said, I'll give you a homework, go home and practice this with your family. So the next day, this man comes and tells me, this lawyer, that's usually I go home and my wife is always having a litany of complaints. Plumber didn't come, the teacher called up and complained about the son, the cook didn't turn up, blah, 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 some complaint or the other. And I just keep saying, and I won't even look at her. I'll be walking around, I'll be keeping my files, I'll be changing my clothes. And then I go to the office. By the time I come back, my wife is asleep. So that is the only conversation we have. So yesterday I went home and she started talking to me and I pulled a chair, I made her sit, I sat on the bed in front of her. I looked at her and I said, yes, tell me what you want to tell me. And she touched my forehead and said, are you all right? Okay, so this is what happens, relationships. How many relationships get ruined because we are not able to have these conversations? Listening, and we are putting people in these brackets. Okay, this is how this person behaves. This is how this person talks. This person is always complaining. This person is always, fighting, quarreling. Just ask the question: what is driving this? Why is this important for you? So this is the kind of transformation that we need to bring about in the whole of society. So when somebody, I was telling, one of my friends called me and I was telling him I'm on my way to the airport. I'm going to, Delhi for a training program. And he said, how many people are you going to train as mediators? I said, I hope to train 1.3 billion people as mediators. Okay, so I want to transform the country by training each and every citizen, each and every Indian in mediation. Okay, because I think that whether you practice as a mediator, you don't practice as a mediator, but this transforms you.
So, sir, as the time not that much left, I want to ask my next question.
Yeah.
What kind of training will a person take to build up a profession in mediation, and what are the aspects of training one should know while applying for the particular mediation training?
See, there are 3 things that you need to keep in mind. One is make sure that it is not just some. Always go into the background of the trainers. See who the trainers are. See the content of the curriculum that they're coming up with. Okay, what is the content of that? See whether that content, that curriculum has sufficient, practical exercises that they're giving you in the form of role plays, in the form of simulation exercises. Check out that. Okay, now universally 40 hours training is accepted as the very basic training that you need. Now there are organizations that are, going in for 60 hours training also. But one training is not enough for you. Okay, so undergo the training, but make sure before you spend your money, what organization is this? Is it something that is recognized internationally? Okay, for example, is it an IMI registered training program? Is it accredited by IMI or by CIMI? Because these are organizations that have laid down global standards of training, global standards for accreditation of mediators. Okay, now this will have a lot of value for you. Okay, one, because you will get good quality training. Number two, you will get that kind of recognition and accreditation that you need to market yourself as a mediator. So I think these are the basic things that you start off with. Okay, and background of the trainers to see whether these trainers have the requisite qualifications, what kind of experience they bring to the table. Okay, check out their profiles. Today it's very easy to access the profile of any person, right? Check out the profile of the organization or the institution, confirm all these things, and then go in for the training. Okay, and the more the merrier. The more number of trainings you undergo, you get different perspectives. Okay, because each one has their own style. Now, there might be a style that might appeal to you. So you may get trained by the best, but the next training that you undergo, you may feel that, okay, this is something that resonates with me. This is something that I'm comfortable working this way. The kind of style of mediation that they teach is something which appeals to me. It's something that I can do. Opt for that method. Okay, but try to undergo as many trainings, advanced trainings, keep refreshing yourself, uh, do a lot of reading, keep doing a lot of research. There are a whole lot of papers coming up on, mediation nowadays. Papers are getting published left, right, and center. Okay, and different perspectives of, what are the things that are involved in mediation. The perspectives, the neuroscientific perspective of how neuroscience impacts people, how it affects the way people behave during conflict. All these things, you need to keep doing your research. You need to keep updating your knowledge. You need to keep writing. Okay, you need to keep speaking in webinars. That is what will give you the kind of profile where people will recognize you and they will come to you. And it is hard work, believe me. Okay, you have to do a lot of hard work there. No profession is easy. To be a professional, ultimately the market decides, right? Once one person engages you and is happy with the work that you do, they are going to be referring. No amount of advertisement is going to help. Advertising helps only to some extent, but if you're not going to do a job properly, no amount of advertisement is going to take you anywhere. Because this is a very personalized service that you're offering, right? So what do you do with a doctor? There are some doctors who may not be very eminently qualified, but by the way they talk to you, the way they put you at ease, helps you to overcome half the problem, right? Now, these are the qualities that you need to develop. Okay, and these can be learned. You don't have to be a born communicator. You don't have to be a born negotiator, born, person who has those skills of, winning friends easily. You don't have to be all that. You can learn these things. Okay, how do you go about this? These are all the important qualifications that you need to.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
no, sir, you may go ahead. Please.
No, I completed.
Okay, sir.
I'm trying to keep my answers brief. Okay, don't forget I'm a lawyer basically by training, so I love to hear my own voice. I keep on talking, so I lose track of time also at times.
So, sir, what is the way forward for mediation profession in India?
The way forward is very simple. You people have to really come out. Okay, take up mediation as a profession. Those of your colleagues who choose to go the litigation route, who choose to go the transaction route, who choose to go in the different routes, talk to them, convince them, and tell them that they should advise their clients to go for mediation as the port of first call if they have a conflict. Okay, and spread the word, make mediation popular, inculcate the culture of peaceful conflict resolution by setting. That was a very brief answer, Mani.
Yeah. So, sir, can we have now questions, please, from the audience?
Yes, by all means.
Yes, yes. Sir. So, I request everyone, one by one, you may ask questions from Jawad, sir, please.
May I, sir?
Yes, please,
Yes.
Rohit.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and experience with us, first of all. So, my question is, first I'd like to give you a little bit of background. I just finished my internship with a firm dealing in ODR. So I've been acquainted with the basics of mediation. We done some mock mediation and wrote research articles, everything. So I just want to know what should be my next step towards becoming a mediator.
See,
I've
for
not done
becoming a
mediation.
mediator, I think you need to first get some kind of accreditation. Okay. So undergo a training that will provide you with the kind of accreditation that you need. That will be the first step. And as I said, then you start working on that. Okay. Project yourself as a qualified mediator. Okay. update your LinkedIn profile with what you're doing in terms of your career as a mediator. Okay, start spreading the word that your services as a mediator are available. Attend as many webinars, speak at different meetings, promote mediation as much as you can, because that's where ultimately you will be benefiting out of it. Okay, so, and even if you're working as an intern in some firm or somewhere, try to make sure that that firm uses mediation as the first step before they go for any other dispute resolution. Be it arbitration, be it litigation, encourage them or tell them that, look, why don't we explore this? Okay, many people have a very sketchy idea of what mediation is all about.
Yes.
Even judges, some judges say that, what is it? You're just going to talk to parties and tell them what to do. So they don't understand that we don't tell them what to do. Okay, what is unique about mediation is the whole concept of mediation is based on the idea of self-determination. So what you need to do basically is empower the parties to decide and resolve the disputes themselves so that it becomes something that is coming from them. Now, you don't challenge your own decisions. I take a decision. Am I going to come and tell Garvit that, hey, Garvit, this is the decision I have taken, please set it aside?
Yes.
I would not do that, right?
So
Good
that
evening,
training
sir.
should be the first step.
Yeah, each one of us has to be an ambassador of mediation.
Thank you, sir.
We have to bring that culture, basically. We don't have that culture today. We have to bring in that culture. Okay. I see my colleague
Good evening,
Sangeeta
sir.
Mahimotra also here.
So can I proceed with my question? If you
Oh, sorry,
permit?
Rajal, please go ahead.
Sir, I have been working as a case manager with an online dispute resolution platform from last 1 year. And in my opinion, a major area in which mediation can be used are property disputes and financial recovery disputes.
Yes.
So, and these disputes mainly arise from rural areas in India.
Yeah.
So, how can we promote mediation or use mediation at the lowest level of the judiciary, that is the district level, to means eradicate cases from at the lowest level, because that cases only in future are responsible for the backlog.
Yeah.
So how can we promote this thing? As a young lawyer, I wish to practice mediation as a full-time profession. So how can I do that at the lowest level?
Okay, see, the only way I see it is it has to be something that has to be coordinated by different parts of the whole mechanism of dispute resolution. We have the courts, we have the disputing parties, we have the lawyers. Okay, so I think the most important thing for us will be to now start creating this awareness. Okay, explain to people what is the efficacy of this. Try to publicize mediation as much as we can. Explain to people the advantages of such resolution. And the most important thing will be to tackle the finance companies. Okay, the in-house counsel of these finance companies, the legal managers, the CEOs. So hold as many meetings with them, as many seminars with them, webinars with them, and help them to understand what are the advantages of this. Okay, and also I think we need to understand what are the issues that they really want to address, because sometimes what happens in finance companies and all that, if they have a security, they refuse to settle. If they don't have a security, they are willing to waive off almost 50 to 60% of their claim and settle the matter. But if they have a security, they refuse, simply because they feel that they will proceed against the security and they will recover their money. Okay, so these are all things that these are the perceptions that we need to change for them. Okay,
sir, a major problem that I think I may face is that the lawyers at the district level courts, they think that mediation is a threat to their profession.
Yes.
And I have been in conversation with many of the lawyers, and we have our family law chamber as well. But this means mediation there is not much awareness among the lawyers as well. So what can be your tip to tackle that thing at this particular juncture?
Yeah, there's a saying, that ADR stands for alarming decrease in revenue for lawyers. So they perceive it as an alarming decrease in revenue. Okay, now this is something that, which is a very tough issue actually, if you ask me. Because ultimately it depends on the moral compass of each person, right? Now, I'll just share with you one small experience that I had. There is a small town called Srivilliputtur in Tamil Nadu, where I come from, okay? And I was asked by the court to conduct a mediation awareness program for the bar over there. So we went there, a couple of my colleagues and I went there, and there were about 300 to 400 lawyers who assembled in the bar association's room, okay? And we started off by talking about mediation, and there was a furor over this. Started shouting. They said that you people are here to destroy our earnings. So what is all this nonsense that you're talking about and all that? Then all of a sudden, one very young girl, okay, a young lawyer, she stood up and she said, I just want to share a small experience with all of you, and then you decide, she said. And she said that, my sister-in-law was pregnant, and we took her to our doctor, family doctor, for the delivery. And we knew that nothing was wrong with my sister-in-law. She would have had a normal delivery, but the doctor said, we have to do a cesarean. So we had to do a cesarean, incurring almost 3 to 4 times the cost of a normal delivery. So that time, when we got the baby, instead of feeling that excitement, the happiness, normally we take sweets for the doctor, we thank the doctor, we treat the doctor like God. But here we didn't feel like doing anything for the doctor because she fleeced us. Okay, she made my sister-in-law go through the pain and agony of a cesarean operation with a scar that is going to remain with her throughout her life. So aren't our clients also thinking like that, she said. So don't you think our clients also deserve the correct advice? Should they not get that opportunity of resolving their disputes easily and cheaply? Just because we want to make money, are we going to exploit them for that? And you won't believe it. The 300 or 400 lawyers, there was pin drop silence. Nobody stood up and said anything. And then we explained to them what this mediation process is all about and how it's going to help them to develop practice. Because one very important information, I was doing a mediation training program in Bhopal, Judicial Academy, the National Judicial Academy in Bhopal for district judges. And the then director of the Judicial Academy, he was in the inaugural, he was saying that 0.4% of justiciable causes come to the court. Niti Aayog has also come out with a report, something very similar to this. So I tell my lawyer friends that 0.4% is what you're earning your money from. Imagine when you are, why do people don't come to the court? People prefer to live with disputes, or they prefer to go to some extrajudicial mechanism like the local gunda or the local police station or the local politician to resolve the dispute, or they just kill each other. Okay, or they try to hurt each other as much as they can, and whoever is the strongest wins over there. But if they were aware that, okay, here is a legitimate way where we can sit across the table, talk with the help of a person who will moderate the conversation, help us to understand what is good for us and what is not good for us, and reach a resolution in a much quicker way, you're expanding your portfolio. Okay, where you're getting 10 clients, you'll be getting 10,000 clients. So those 9.6% cases which are not coming to you today will be coming to you ultimately, right? Isn't it what we are trying to do here? We are trying to, I strongly believe that mediation is not going to decrease the revenue of lawyers. If it has not decreased the revenue of lawyers in the US, if it has not decreased the revenue of lawyers in UK, if it has in fact enhanced their revenue, I am sure that in this also, and you will be taking the blessings of your clients, you'll be earning their goodwill, you'll be earning their gratitude. I mean, it all sounds very altruistic, okay, but it is real. That's the reality. So it's high time we face the reality and stop being selfish. We are not, by being selfish, we are being stupid actually, because we are blocking those avenues of revenue for us. So where your role comes is you need to spread this awareness. Okay, you need to put forth these arguments before lawyers and tell them that, look, you're wrong. This is what it is going to provide you with. This is going to expand your scope. Get trained. You don't want to be a mediator, fine. Become a mediation advocate. Learn how to represent your parties. Bloody fees, who's stopping you? You mean to say when you're going to spend time in a mediation, the client is not going to pay you? I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank you.
So now I request you, sir, to please share some words of yours in our initiative.
Well, I didn't get that, Manya. What did you say?
Sir, I am saying कि please share करिए अपने कुछ views for our initiative.
For Karuna mediation.
That's true.
First of all, congratulations on starting this in the first place. Okay. We need more and more people like you to come forward and start this. And I think you're doing a great job. You're creating that awareness. This is what each one of you should be doing, including those in the audience. I think each one of you should start this kind of work, spread the awareness, spread the word, okay? And try to, get more and more people start believing in mediation. It's like a religious conversion. Okay, I met a mediator in Belfast last time when I went for the Commonwealth Lawyers Association. And he said, after worshipping at the Satanic Church of Litigation for 25 years, I converted to the one true religion of 16 years. These were his words. Okay. So what we need to do is really spread the word and start converting people to peacemaking. Okay, so that is where I think your initiative is something really good, Manya. I can promise you my full support for that. And I hope that you succeed in what you're doing in your endeavors. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. And thank you for sharing such an insightful of knowledge and thoughts on your particular topic. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you everyone for having with us on this particular topic on this webinar. I request everyone to please fill up the forms, and I'm very sorry as the time is very much sufficient to us. So like if any of the questions you have in your mind, you may ask us later on our LinkedIn page, or you can ask us on our email ID. Email ID have been shared in the chat box. You may write us and we will try to solve your myths all around the mediation with the help of sir also.